The asteroid mining station Kepler 442 hung in the darkness like a metal tumor against the star-filled void. Its inhabitants had grown used to the constant hum of processors, the rhythmic clank of extraction equipment, and the endless chatter of 37 different species all trying to make their fortune in the outer rim. But Dr. Sarah Chen had never grown used to the noise. She pressed her palms against her temples as another wave of sound crashed over her. The Vrexian traders in Base 7 were conducting their business in their traditional manner, which involved a lot of screeching that somehow passed for negotiation. The Kalthori mining crew had started their shift early, and their forearms made them incredibly efficient at creating 4 times the normal amount of clanging. Add to that the constant background hum of life support systems, gravity generators, and the dozen different translation matrices all working overtime, and Sarah felt like her skull might split open. "Dr. Chen, we need you in Lab 3, came the voice over her comm unit. Even through the static, she could hear the tension in Engineer Morrison's voice. Sarah dragged herself away from her workstation, where she'd been trying to analyze mineral samples from the latest dig. The headache that had been building all morning intensified as she walked through the corridors. Every footstep on the metal deck plates seemed to echo directly into her brain. The ventilation system whooshed overhead like a mechanical hurricane. Lab 3 was in chaos when she arrived. Morrison stood next to a massive containment unit, his face pale despite his dark skin. Inside the transparent aluminum walls, something moved. "We found it in the deep tunnels," Morrison explained, not taking his eyes off the container. "Section Gamma 9, almost 2 kilometers down." It was just sitting there. Sarah approached the containment unit slowly. The creature inside was unlike anything in the xenobiology databases. It stood roughly 3 meters tall, with a body that seemed to shift between solid and semi-liquid states. Its skin, if it could be called skin, was deep purple-black, shot through with veins of silver that pulsed with their own light. What struck Sarah most was its face. Among all the alien features, its eyes were unmistakably intelligent, and unmistakably sad. "Has it shown any aggressive behavior?" Sarah asked. "None at all," Morrison replied. "It hasn't even moved much since we brought it up. Just sits there, looking around." "But, Dr. Chen." He paused, glancing at her nervously. "The scanner readings are off the charts. This thing is putting out energy signatures we can't even classify." Sarah studied the readings on the nearby console. Morrison was right, the power levels were incredible. The creature seemed to be containing forces that should have torn the station apart, yet it sat quietly in the corner of its cell like a patient waiting for a doctor's appointment. "Have you tried communicating with it?" "Standard protocols," Morrison nodded. "Every language matrix in our system. It doesn't respond to any of them. Doesn't seem hostile, just distant." As if it had heard them talking, the creature's head turned toward Sarah. Their eyes met through the transparent barrier, and something unexpected happened. The constant noise in Sarah's head, the grinding, humming, buzzing symphony of the station, seemed to fade slightly. Not disappear, but become more bearable. The creature tilted its head, studying her with what appeared to be curiosity. "Fascinating," Sarah murmured. She moved closer to the containment unit. "You're not just intelligent, are you? You're aware of things beyond the physical." The creature's silver veins pulsed brighter for a moment, and Sarah felt the noise in her head diminish further. It was as if the creature was somehow creating a bubble of calm around her. "Dr. Chen," Morrison said urgently. "Your neural activity is spiking on the monitors." Sarah ignored him. She pressed her palm against the containment barrier. The creature approached slowly, moving with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for something its size. When it reached the wall, it raised what might have been its hand and placed it against the barrier opposite Sarah's palm. The moment their hands were aligned, separated only by the transparent aluminum, the noise stopped. Not just dimmed, stopped completely. For the first time in months, Sarah's mind was quiet. The constant assault of sound that had been driving her slowly insane simply wasn't there anymore. She could still hear things, Morrison's breathing, the soft hum of the containment system, but they were background noise, not the overwhelming cacophony that usually filled her thoughts. Tears began streaming down her face. Dr. Chen. Morrison reached for her arm, but she waved him away. It's okay, she whispered. It's more than okay. This is the first peace I've had in months. The creature's eyes, she was certain they were eyes now, seemed to understand. It made a sound, barely audible even in the quiet lab. Not a roar or a screech like most of the aliens on the station made, but something soft, almost musical. What's happening here? Came a gruff voice from the doorway. Captain Rodriguez entered the lab, followed by Chief of Security Yates and Dr. Patel from the Xenobiology Department. We're conducting initial examinations of the specimen, Morrison explained, though he kept glancing nervously between Sarah and the creature. Specimen? Sarah turned to face the newcomers, her hand still pressed against the barrier. This is a sentient being, not a specimen. Captain Rodriguez frowned. Dr. Chen, step away from the containment unit. We don't know what that thing is capable of. I know exactly what it's capable of, Sarah replied firmly. It's capable of bringing peace. Dr. Patel activated his scanner and began taking readings. The energy levels are extraordinary, he muttered. Captain, this creature is generating power equivalent to our main reactor, but it's contained entirely within its own biofield. I've never seen anything like it. Chief Yates drew his plasma rifle. And that's exactly why Dr. Chen needs to step away. If that thing loses control, it won't, Sarah said with absolute certainty. Look at it. Really look at it. The others turned their attention to the creature. It hadn't moved from its position at the barrier, its hands still aligned with Sarah's. Its silver veins pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, and its eyes held a depth of intelligence and sadness that was unmistakable. It's not a monster, Sarah continued. It's a refugee. The creature seemed to understand her words. It made that soft, musical sound again, and, for a brief moment, everyone in the lab felt it, a wave of profound loneliness, of exhaustion, of yearning for something that had been lost. Dear God, Dr. Patel whispered. It's telepathic. Not just intelligent, it's a telepath. Captain Rodriguez lowered his defensive stance slightly. What do you mean, a refugee? Sarah never took her eyes off the creature. Look at those energy readings. This being has power beyond our comprehension, but it's not using it to break out or attack us. It's using it to control itself. To contain whatever forces are at war inside it. She paused, studying the creature's face. You're running from something, aren't you? Something that made all that power a curse instead of a gift. The creature's response was to press its other hand against the barrier as well, and the sense of peace in the lab intensified. Even Captain Rodriguez visibly relaxed. The noise, Sarah explained to the others. All my life, I've been sensitive to sound, to the chaos of voices and machines and energy fields. It's gotten worse out here on the rim, with so many species and so much technology all crammed together. But, this being, it's creating a space of silence, of calm. Not by blocking the sound, but by harmonizing with it. Dr. Patel's scanners were working furiously. The energy patterns are incredible. It's like it's creating a localized field that dampens chaotic frequencies while amplifying harmonious ones. Dr. Chen, how do you feel? Like I can think clearly for the first time in months, Sarah replied. Like my mind is my own again. Chief Yates still looked skeptical. That could be some kind of psychic manipulation. Making you think you feel better while it does something to your brain. Sarah finally turned away from the creature to face him directly. Yates, you've known me for 2 years. Have you ever seen me this calm? This focused? This happy? He had to admit she had a point. Dr. Sarah Chen was known throughout the station for her brilliant mind but also for her constant stress, her headaches, her need to take breaks from the busier sections of the station. Right now, she looked more at peace than anyone had ever seen her. What are you suggesting, Dr. Chen? Captain Rodriguez asked. I'm suggesting we try to communicate properly. Not with universal translators or standard first contact protocols, but as one intelligent being to another. She turned back to the creature.
I think it's been trying to tell us something since the moment we found it.
She pressed both palms against the barrier now, matching the creature's posture. The silence in the lab deepened, but, this time, something else began to emerge from the quiet. Images, faint but unmistakable, began forming in the minds of everyone present. A vast ship, sleek and powerful, traveling between the stars. Beings like the creature in the containment unit, but their energy fields wild and uncontrolled, creating chaos wherever they went. A civil war that tore apart not just their civilization but the very fabric of space around their home system. The creature they were looking at had been different from its kind. Where others let their power run wild, it had learned to control, to harmonize, to bring peace instead of chaos. But that very ability had made it an outcast among its own people. You left, Sarah said softly, understanding flooding through her.
You left because you couldn't stand the violence, the chaos your people created. The images continued. The creature traveling alone through space, searching for somewhere quiet, somewhere it could exist without its power being seen as a weakness or a threat. Finding the asteroid field around Kepler 442, digging deep into the rock to create a space where it could finally rest. But, we found you, Dr. Patel whispered, caught up in the vision. Our mining operation disturbed your sanctuary.
The creature's sadness deepened, but it wasn't angry. It was resigned. It had known this would happen eventually. Captain, Sarah said, turning to Rodriguez.
We can't keep it locked up like this. It's not a threat, it's the opposite of a threat. Dr. Chen, I understand your sympathy, but we have protocols. Protocols for what? For keeping a refugee in a cage? For imprisoning someone who's done nothing but try to find peace?
Sarah's voice was passionate but controlled, the clarity the creature provided allowing her to argue more effectively than she ever had before.
Morrison checked his instruments again.
Captain, the energy readings are stabilizing.
Whatever this being is doing, it's not destabilizing our systems. If anything, it's making them run more efficiently.
It was true. The constant background vibration that plagued all asteroid mining stations, the result of massive extraction equipment working around the clock, had become smoother, more regular. The lights weren't flickering as much. Even the air recyclers seemed to be running more quietly. It's harmonizing with our systems, Dr. Patel realized.
Creating order from chaos, just like it did in Dr. Chen's mind. Chief Yates lowered his weapon completely. I have to admit, I feel calmer than I have in weeks. Like I could actually get a good night's sleep for once.
Captain Rodriguez studied the creature for a long moment. It looked back at him with those intelligent, sad eyes, and he found himself thinking more clearly than he had since taking command of the station. The constant stress of managing 37 different species, each with their own needs and conflicts, seemed manageable for the first time in months.
What are you proposing, Dr. Chen?
Let it stay, she said simply.
Not as a prisoner, but, as a resident.
It's not asking for much, just a quiet place to exist. And, in return, it could give us something we've all been needing without realizing it.
Peace, Dr. Patel murmured.
More than that, Sarah continued.
Clarity. Harmony.
An end to the constant low-level conflict that makes places like this so difficult to live in. She gestured around the lab.
Look at us. We're having the most reasonable discussion I've ever been part of on this station. No one's interrupting, no one's getting defensive, no one's letting their temper flare. When's the last time that happened in a meeting involving the captain, security chief, and department heads? Rodriguez had to admit it was unusual.
Station meetings typically involved a lot of shouting. The xenobiology protocols require a minimum 2-week observation period, Dr. Patel said slowly. We could conduct that observation in more comfortable circumstances.
What kind of comfortable circumstances? Yates asked. Sarah looked at the creature again.
In the silence it provided, she could think through the problem more clearly than usual.
The old observation deck in Section C.
It's been abandoned since the Krillian delegation left. Large space, multiple exits for security purposes, but private. No mining operations nearby, so it would be quiet.
And if it proves dangerous? Rodriguez asked. Captain, look at the power readings, Morrison interjected. If this being wanted to hurt us, we'd already be dead. The energy it's containing could probably crack this asteroid in half. But it's not using it as a weapon, it's using it as a tool for peace. The creature seemed to understand they were discussing its fate. It moved slightly away from the barrier but kept one hand pressed against it, maintaining the connection with Sarah. With its free hand, it touched its chest, then extended that hand toward the group, a gesture that was unmistakably an offering. It wants to help, Sarah interpreted. It's offering to share this gift with all of us. Captain Rodriguez made his decision. 2-week observation period in Section C. Dr. Chen, you'll be the primary researcher, with Dr. Patel assisting. Chief Yates will maintain security protocols, but non-aggressive ones. Morrison, I want continuous monitoring of all station systems. If this being's presence starts causing problems, we address them immediately. And if the observation period goes well? Sarah asked. Rodriguez looked at the creature again, feeling that profound sense of calm wash over him. Then, we'll discuss more permanent arrangements. The creature's silver veins pulsed brighter, and, for a moment, everyone in the lab felt what could only be described as gratitude. Not words or images this time, just pure emotion, thankfulness so profound it brought tears to several eyes. All right, Rodriguez said, his voice slightly rough with unexpected emotion. Let's get our guest moved to more appropriate accommodations. As the group began making preparations for the transfer, Sarah remained at the barrier with the creature. In the silence it provided, she could hear something she'd been missing for months, her own thoughts, clear and uncluttered. Thank you, she whispered to it. I don't know if you understand the words, but I think you understand the meaning. The creature's response was to press both hands against the barrier again, and, for a brief moment, Sarah felt something that went beyond peace, beyond quiet. She felt hope. Not just her own hope, but the creature's hope that it had finally found a place where it could belong, where its strange gift would be welcomed instead of feared. When the security team arrived to oversee the transfer, they found the most unusual sight in the history of Kepler 442, a monster that looked like it might cry with relief, and a human scientist who was smiling for the first time in months. The real story was just beginning. The transfer to Section C took 3 hours, and it was the smoothest operation anyone on Kepler 442 had ever witnessed. Usually, moving anything larger than a cargo crate through the station's narrow corridors resulted in delays, arguments, and at least one minor injury. This time, the security escort moved with unprecedented efficiency, the maintenance crews worked without their usual bickering, and even the notoriously territorial Vrection traders stepped aside without complaint. Dr. Sarah Chen walked alongside the mobile containment unit, her hand pressed against its surface where the creature's hand matched it from inside. The headache that had plagued her for months was completely gone. More than that, she felt energized in a way she hadn't experienced since her early days in graduate school, when discovery and learning had filled her with constant excitement. Vitals are stable, Dr. Patel reported, monitoring both Sarah and the creature. In fact, Dr. Chen's stress indicators are the lowest I've ever recorded. Heart rate, blood pressure, cortisol levels, everything suggests she's in a state of deep relaxation. That's not relaxation, Sarah corrected. That's clarity. It's like the difference between trying to read in a noisy restaurant and reading in a quiet library. The information is the same, but my ability to process it is completely different. Chief Yates walked ahead of the group, clearing their path. He'd been skeptical of the whole arrangement, but he couldn't deny that his own mind felt clearer than it had in years. The constant low-level paranoia that came with security work on a frontier station, always watching for trouble, always expecting the worst, had eased into simple awareness. How are the other residents reacting? Captain Rodriguez asked through the calm. That's the strangest part, Yates replied. Usually when we move something this big through the station, we get complaints about disrupted schedules, blocked corridors, noise violations. This time, nothing. People are just stepping out of the way and going about their business. They reached Section C without incident. The observation deck had been designed for diplomatic meetings with species that required larger spaces or specific environmental conditions.
It was a vast chamber with a transparent dome that offered a spectacular view of the asteroid field and the stars beyond. Most importantly for their current guest, it was located away from the main mining operations and the busiest commercial areas of the station.
Atmospheric composition is compatible, Dr. Patel confirmed, checking his scanners. Gravity settings are appropriate.
Temperature and humidity within acceptable ranges.
Sarah stepped back as the security team opened the containment unit. For a moment, everyone held their breath.
The creature could have overpowered them at any point during the transfer, but it had remained cooperative throughout.
Still, this would be the real test.
The creature emerged slowly, moving with that same fluid grace they'd observed in the lab. It stood to its full 3-meter height and looked around the chamber, taking in the open space, the view of the stars, the multiple exits that showed it wasn't truly imprisoned. Its silver veins pulsed brighter, and the sense of peace that had followed them through the station intensified.
Then, it did something unexpected.
It moved to the center of the chamber and settled into what could only be described as a meditation posture, cross-legged, hands resting on its knees, eyes closed. The energy readings on Dr. Patel's instruments spiked briefly, then settled into a pattern more regular than a heartbeat.
"It's creating a field," Dr. Patel whispered.
A stable harmonic field centered on this chamber, but extending throughout the station. The effect was immediate and profound. The constant background vibration that plagued all mining stations, the subtle shaking caused by massive drilling equipment working around the clock, smoothed into a gentle, almost musical rhythm.
The harsh artificial lighting in the corridor outside seemed warmer.
Even the recycled air felt fresher. "Captain Rodriguez, to all department heads," came the voice over the calm.
"Report status of all critical systems."
The responses came back quickly, and they were all the same: everything was running better than normal.
Power consumption was down.
Equipment efficiency was up. The constant minor malfunctions that kept the maintenance crews busy had simply stopped.
"It's not just creating peace for biological minds," Morrison realized.
"It's harmonizing all the chaotic systems on the station. The random vibrations, the electrical interference, the resonance conflicts between different technologies, it's fixing all of it." Sarah approached the creature slowly.
It opened its eyes as she drew near, and she felt that now familiar wave of calm wash over her.
"Thank you," she said aloud. "I don't know if you understand our language, but thank you for sharing this gift with us." The creature tilted its head, studying her. Then, it reached out not to touch her, but to gesture toward the empty space next to where it sat. The invitation was clear.
"Dr. Chen," Chief Yates said warningly.
"It's okay," Sarah replied. She settled into a sitting position about a meter away from the creature.
"In fact, it's more than okay."
With her in closer proximity, the harmonic field intensified. Dr. Patel's instruments showed Sarah's neural activity entering patterns typically associated with deep meditation or REM sleep, while she remained fully conscious and alert. "This is remarkable," Dr. Patel murmured.
"Dr. Chen, how do you feel?"
"Like I can think faster and more clearly than I ever have in my life," she replied.
"It's not altering my thoughts, it's removing the interference that was slowing them down."
For the next hour, they conducted careful observations. The creature remained in its meditative posture, occasionally opening its eyes to look around the chamber or to focus on one of its observers. It showed particular interest in Sarah, but also extended what seemed like curious attention to the others.
Dr. Patel ran every non-invasive scan he could think of. The results painted a picture of a being unlike anything in their databases.
The creature's biology seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime, drawing energy from quantum fluctuations and directing it through complex bioelectromagnetic fields. "It's like it evolved to be a living tuning fork," Dr.
Patel explained to the group. "Its entire physiology is designed to detect disharmony and correct it. The power levels we're seeing aren't weapons, they're tools for creating cosmic order on a local scale."
"Which explains why it was hiding," Sarah said, understanding flooding through her clear mind.
"Imagine having that ability in the middle of a civil war. Every side would want to either use you or eliminate you."
The creature opened its eyes and looked directly at her. For a moment, new images formed in her mind, not the traumatic memories of war they'd seen before, but something else. A vision of the station as it could be, all 37 species working together in harmony, their different technologies and cultures complementing each other instead of creating constant friction. Mining operations that worked with the natural structure of asteroids instead of against it. A place where beings could come not just to extract wealth, but to find peace.
It's not just hiding, Sarah said softly. It's hoping.
It came here because it sensed potential for something better. Captain Rodriguez had been monitoring the station-wide effects from his command console.
Dr. Chen, I'm getting reports from all sections.
Productivity is up across the board, but, more importantly, we haven't had a single interpersonal conflict in the last hour. No fights in the bars, no disputes over mining claims, no complaints about noise or cultural violations. For the first time since I took command, this station is operating in genuine harmony.
The question is, Chief Yates said, what happens when word gets out? We've got representatives from dozens of different governments and corporations here.
If they learn about what this being can do, they'll want to take it, Sarah finished. To use it as a weapon, or a tool for control. The creature's silver veins pulsed with what seemed like anxiety at their words.
It understood the danger it faced.
Then, we don't tell them, Captain Rodriguez said firmly.
As far as any official reports are concerned, we found an unusual but harmless alien life form that we're studying.
Nothing about the harmonic effects or the enhanced efficiency.
Captain, with all due respect, we can't hide this indefinitely, Dr. Patel pointed out. The improvements in station operations are too dramatic. Someone's going to notice.
Then, we need to move carefully, Rodriguez replied. Dr. Chen, I want you to continue your observations, but I also want you to start working on communication protocols. If we're going to protect our guest, we need to understand it better.
Sarah nodded, settling back into her position near the creature. I think I can help with that.
The harmonic field makes telepathic communication much easier. Over the next several hours, a remarkable relationship began to develop. Sarah found that in the creature's presence, her own latent telepathic abilities she hadn't even known she possessed, began to emerge. The creature, which she privately began thinking of as harmony, was patient and gentle in its mental communications. Through images, emotions, and shared experiences, harmony told its story. Its species, the Zephyrians, had once been peaceful beings whose entire culture was based on the creation and maintenance of cosmic harmony. But, as their civilization grew more advanced and their power increased, some had begun using their abilities for control and domination rather than peace. The civil war that destroyed their homeworld had been fought not with conventional weapons, but with competing harmonic frequencies.
Entire planets had been torn apart by chaotic resonance patterns.
Star systems had been destabilized by beings trying to impose their will on others through cosmic force. Harmony had been among a small group who refused to participate in the conflict. They had tried to maintain neutral zones where peace could exist, but, eventually, even they were seen as threats by both sides. Harmony had escaped alone, its companions either killed or converted to one of the warring factions.
You've been searching for somewhere peaceful for decades, Sarah said, understanding washing over her.
But, every time you found a promising location, other conflicts would arise, or someone would discover your abilities and try to exploit them. The sadness in Harmony's mental voice was profound, but it was mixed with something else now, hope. In the short time since its arrival on Kepler 442, it had felt something it hadn't experienced in decades: acceptance without exploitation.
We have to protect this, Sarah told the others.
Not just for Harmony's sake, but for what it represents.
Proof that peace is possible, even in a place like this.
Dr. Patel had been monitoring the station's systems continuously.
The improvements are holding steady. If anything, they're getting better as Harmony settles in. It's like it's gradually tuning our entire operation to run more efficiently. Any negative effects? Chief Yates asked. None that I can detect.
The only change is increased harmony, and I mean that literally. All the chaotic frequencies that normally interfere with station operations have been either eliminated or converted to useful energy.
Captain Rodriguez made another decision that would prove crucial to everything that followed. I'm updating Harmony's status in our official records. Not as a specimen or even a refugee, but as a consultant. Someone whose expertise we're utilizing to improve station operations. Can we do that legally? Dr. Patel asked.
The station charter gives me broad authority to hire consultants for operational efficiency.
As long as Harmony is willing and we're not keeping it against its will, there's no regulation that says our consultants have to be human.
Sarah smiled, the first genuine, relaxed smile anyone had seen from her in months.
I think Harmony would appreciate the dignity of that arrangement. She was right.
When she communicated the captain's decision to Harmony, its silver veins pulsed with what could only be interpreted as gratitude and relief. For the first time in decades, it was being valued for what it could contribute rather than what could be taken from it. The evening shift brought new challenges and new revelations. As word spread quietly through the station that their operations had mysteriously improved, people began finding excuses to pass by Section C. Not with any ulterior motive, just drawn by a sense that something positive was happening there. The Vrection traders, normally aggressive negotiators who treated every deal as a battle to be won, found themselves conducting business with unprecedented fairness and efficiency. The Kalthori mining crews discovered that their equipment was running so smoothly they could complete their shifts early without compromising safety or quality. Even the notoriously difficult Zentorian diplomatic attaché stopped complaining about the station's accommodations.
It's remarkable, Dr. Patel observed. Harmony isn't controlling anyone's behavior.
It's just removing the sources of irritation and stress that made cooperation difficult in the first place.
Sarah had spent the entire day in Section C, taking breaks only when absolutely necessary.
The clarity and peace she experienced in Harmony's presence had become addictive, not in a chemical sense, but in the way that someone who'd been living with chronic pain might become reluctant to leave a place where the pain stopped. I can think here, she explained to Captain Rodriguez during his evening visit. Not just react to the constant noise and chaos, but actually think. I've solved more research problems in the last 8 hours than I had in the previous month.
And Harmony? How is it adjusting?
Sarah glanced at the creature, which had moved to a position near the dome where it could watch the stars.
I think this is the happiest it's been in decades.
It's found a place where its gift is appreciated rather than feared or exploited.
The question is, Rodriguez said quietly, how long can we keep this arrangement stable?
Word is already spreading through the civilian population about the improved conditions.
It won't be long before corporate headquarters start asking questions.
As if summoned by his concern, Morrison's voice came over the comm. Captain, we're receiving an incoming transmission from Meridian Corporate.
Priority 1 classification. Rodriguez sighed. Speak of the devil. Dr. Chen, whatever happens, we protect Harmony.
It's found sanctuary here, and I intend to honor that.
Sarah nodded, but
she was already sensing something through her connection with Harmony. The creature had gone very still, its silver veins dimming. In her mind, she felt its sudden spike of fear. Captain, she said urgently, something's wrong. Harmony is sensing something, a threat approaching.
What kind of threat?
Sarah closed her eyes, deepening her telepathic connection with Harmony. The images that came through were fragmentary but terrifying, ships moving through space, beings with power similar to Harmony's but twisted toward domination rather than peace, the taste of old conflicts being renewed.
They're coming, she whispered. Harmony's people. The ones from the war. They've found it. The attack came at dawn, station time.
Sarah had fallen asleep in Section C, curled up in a chair near Harmony's meditation spot. She woke to the creature's distress flooding through her mind, a psychic scream of terror and old pain that jolted her awake more effectively than any alarm. Red alert, Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the station.
All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity.
Through the transparent dome, Sarah could see them, 3 sleek ships that seemed to bend light around their hulls, making them appear to flicker in and out of existence. They were beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, perfect, deadly, and utterly without mercy. Harmony had risen from its meditation posture and was backing away from the dome, its silver veins pulsing erratically. The careful peace it had maintained throughout the station was cracking, replaced by waves of panic and old trauma.
Sarah, are you there?
Dr. Patel's voice came through her comm unit.
We're reading massive destabilization in the harmonic fields.
Harmony is terrified, Sarah replied, moving to the creature's side. These ships, they're from its homeworld.
The ones who destroyed their civilization.
The first ship had taken position directly above the station, while the other two flanked it on either side. No weapons were visible, but Sarah could feel the raw power radiating from them even through the station's shielding. An alien voice came through the station's communication system, speaking in a language that sounded like controlled chaos, beautiful and terrible at the same time. The universal translator struggled with it for a moment before producing a rough approximation in standard.
Greetings, primitive beings. We are the Dominion fleet of the Greater Zephyrian Empire. You harbor one of our criminals. Surrender it to us, and your pathetic settlement will be spared. Captain Rodriguez's response was immediate and firm.
This is Captain Rodriguez of Kepler 442 mining station. We have no criminals here, only refugees.
State your business or move along. The alien laughter that came through the comm was like breaking glass. Refugee? Is that what the harmonizer told you?
The being you shelter is responsible for the deaths of billions. It and its kind prevented our people from achieving their rightful destiny among the stars.
Sarah felt Harmony's anguish at the accusation.
Through their mental link, she saw the truth. Harmony and the other pacifists had tried to prevent the civil war by maintaining zones of forced peace, but their intervention had only prolonged the conflict. Both sides had eventually turned on the peacekeepers, blaming them for the destruction that followed. Captain, she called through her calm, they're twisting the truth. Harmony tried to stop their war, not cause it.
Understood, Dr. Chen. All defense batteries, prepare for hostile contact. The alien voice came again, colder now. You have one of your primitive time units to comply. Failure to surrender the harmonizer will result in the complete destruction of your facility and all aboard.
Harmony moved closer to Sarah, and she felt its profound sadness. Not for itself, but for the humans who would die because they had offered it sanctuary. It began moving toward the exit from Section C. No, Sarah said firmly, both aloud and through their mental link. You're not going back to them. We'll find another way. Dr. Chen, Chief Yates entered Section C with a full security team, all armed with the station's most powerful weapons.
Captain's orders.
We're to establish a defensive perimeter around our guest. The gesture of protection caused Harmony to stop, its silver veins pulsing with surprised gratitude. Through the mental link, Sarah felt its amazement that these beings, so small and fragile compared to a Zephyrian, would risk themselves to protect it.
Chief, Sarah said urgently, conventional weapons won't work against them.
But Harmony might have another option. She turned to the creature, opening her mind fully to their connection.
You've been hiding your true power, haven't you?
Containing it, controlling it, making it seem smaller than it really is.
But you're not just a harmonizer, you're something more.
The truth came through their link in a flood of images and emotions.
Harmony wasn't just one of the Zephyrian peacekeepers, it was their leader, the most powerful harmonizer ever born.
During the Civil War, it had contained enough chaotic energy to destabilize an entire star system, choosing instead to absorb and neutralize it. The effort had nearly killed it, and it had been in hiding ever since, afraid that using its full power again might corrupt it the way it had corrupted so many of its people. But you're different, Sarah said, understanding flooding through her. You've learned something they haven't, that true power comes from choosing restraint, not from giving in to temptation. Through the dome, they could see the Dominion ships moving into attack formation. Energy was beginning to build around their hulls, not the focused beams of typical weapons, but chaotic force fields designed to tear apart anything they touched.
30 seconds, came the alien ultimatum.
Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the calm.
All non-essential personnel to the evacuation pods.
Security teams, prepare for boarding action.
Dr. Chen, whatever you and our guest are planning, now would be a good time. Sarah looked at Harmony, seeing past its monstrous appearance to the gentle soul beneath. You don't have to hide anymore. These people offered you sanctuary, now let's show them what you can really do. Harmony's response was immediate and overwhelming. Its silver veins blazed with light as it dropped every restraint it had maintained since arriving at the station. The harmonic field that had been gently improving their lives exploded outward, encompassing not just Kepler 442 but the entire volume of space around it. The effect on the Dominion ships was instantaneous. Their chaotic energy fields, designed to spread destruction, suddenly found themselves caught in a web of perfect harmony. The forces they had been building to attack the station turned back on themselves, but, instead of causing damage, they were transformed into something beautiful, a dance of energy that painted the space around the ships with aurora-like colors. Inside the lead ship, the Dominion commander felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: peace. The constant rage and ambition that drove his people, the need to dominate and control that had consumed their civilization, simply stopped. For a moment, he remembered what his people had been like before the war, when their power had been used to create beauty instead of destruction. "What is this?" he demanded, but his voice lacked its earlier coldness. Harmony's response came not through the communication system, but directly into the minds of every being on the Dominion ships. Not words, but pure emotion, forgiveness, understanding, and an offer of redemption. Sarah felt the exchange through her link with Harmony. The creature was showing the Dominion forces what they had lost when they chose domination over Harmony. It was offering them a chance to remember who they had been before the war corrupted them. But the commander's conditioning was too strong. With visible effort, he reasserted his aggression, fighting against the peaceful influence. "Harmonizer. Your tricks will not save you. We are beyond such weakness now." The ships began charging their weapons again, but something had changed. Several members of each crew were no longer following orders, instead staring out at the beautiful energy patterns Harmony had created. Some were actually weeping, the first tears many of them had shed in decades. "Captain," Dr. Patel called through the calm, "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the alien ships, but they're not weapon signatures. It's like they're fighting themselves." Sarah understood what was happening. Harmony's influence was awakening the suppressed better natures of the Dominion crews, creating internal conflicts between their conditioned aggression and their natural Zephyrian desire for harmony. "It's working," she told Harmony. "They're remembering what they used to be." But the commander was stronger than his subordinates. With a roar of fury, he managed to complete the weapons charge. "If I cannot have the harmonizer, then no one will. Target the station's reactor core. Full power." The chaotic energy beam lanced out toward Kepler 442, carrying enough destructive force to vaporize the entire station. Sarah felt a moment of pure terror, not for herself, but for all the innocent beings aboard who had welcomed Harmony with such kindness. Then, Harmony moved. The creature that had spent months hiding its true nature, that had contained its power out of fear that it might be corrupted, finally embraced what it truly was. It didn't just absorb the incoming attack, it transformed it, weaving the chaotic energy into the harmonic field that surrounded the station. The result was spectacular. The destructive beam became a pillar of pure light that illuminated the entire asteroid field. Instead of vaporizing Kepler 442, it energized every system on the station, making their technology work better than it ever had before. "Impossible," the Dominion commander whispered. Harmony's response came as a gentle pressure in his mind, and in the minds of every being on the Dominion ships. This time, instead of offering peace, it shared a simple truth: power used to protect was infinitely stronger than power used to destroy. The revelation shattered the last of the commander's conditioning. He saw himself clearly for the first time in centuries, saw what he had become, what his people had become, and what they had lost in their pursuit of dominance. The weight of countless destroyed worlds, of civilizations extinguished in the name of Zephyrian superiority, crashed down on him all at once. "What have we done?" he cried out, and his anguish echoed through the minds of his crews. Sarah felt the moment through her link with Harmony. The creature wasn't gloating or seeking revenge, it was offering compassion to beings who had hunted it across the galaxy.
It understood that they, too, were victims of the war that had destroyed their homeworld. "Commander," came a voice from one of the other ships. It was younger, less hardened.
"Sir, my crew, we can't continue this.
"The harmonizer, it's showing us what we've lost.
What we could be again."
Similar reports came from the third ship. The harmonic field had done more than just stop their attack, it had forced them to confront the consequences of their actions, to feel the pain they had caused others. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the station com. "All stations report status." That energy surge somehow improved every system on the station. "We're operating at 150% efficiency across the board."
Through the dome, Sarah watched the Dominion ships.
Their aggressive formations had dissolved into something that looked almost like a funeral arrangement. The crews were experiencing something their people hadn't felt in generations: collective grief for what they had become. Harmony sent another wave of emotion through the harmonic field, not judgment, but an invitation. It was offering them the same thing it had found at Kepler 442, a chance to start over, to remember what their power was truly meant for.
"This is Commander Zethkri of the Dominion fleet," came the transmission.
The alien voice was different now, older, sadder, but somehow cleaner.
We formally request permission to withdraw. The being you shelter is not our enemy. We see that now."
"Permission granted," Captain Rodriguez replied.
"But, Commander, if your people ever decide they want to learn from what they've seen here, you know where to find us."
There was a long pause. Then, perhaps some of us will remember that offer.
"The harmonizer has given us much to think about."
The Dominion ships began to withdraw, but several smaller craft detached from them, escape pods carrying crew members who couldn't bear to return to their old lives after experiencing true harmony again. They requested asylum at the station, asking for a chance to learn how to live in peace.
As the main fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Sarah felt Harmony's exhaustion through their mental link.
The creature had used more power in the last hour than it had in decades, and the effort had drained it significantly.
"You did it," she told it, both aloud and telepathically. "You didn't just save us, you saved them too. You showed them there was another way."
Harmony's response was a mixture of relief, gratitude, and something Sarah hadn't felt from it before: hope for the future. Not just for itself, but for its entire species. Captain Rodriguez arrived in Section C as Harmony was settling back into its meditative posture, the harmonic field gradually returning to its previous gentle strength.
Dr. Chen, I need to ask, was that display representative of our guest's normal capabilities?
Sarah smiled, feeling more at peace than she ever had in her life.
"Captain, I don't think we've seen even a fraction of what Harmony is capable of.
But, more importantly, I don't think we need to worry about it. This is a being that chose to absorb a star system destroying attack rather than let anyone get hurt.
Its power isn't the dangerous kind, it's the kind that creates rather than destroys."
Over the following weeks, word of what had happened at Kepler 442 spread through the Outer Rim colonies. Not the full story, Captain Rodriguez had been careful to classify the most sensitive details, but enough to let other refugees know that there was a place where beings could find sanctuary regardless of their species or their past. The station's population grew as other outcasts and peacekeepers arrived, drawn by stories of a place where harmony was possible even among dozens of different species. Harmony welcomed them all, its field expanding to accommodate each new arrival while maintaining the perfect balance that made cooperation possible.
Dr.
Sarah Chen became the station's official xenocultural liaison, helping newcomers integrate into their unique community. The chronic headaches that had plagued her for years never returned. In their place, she found a clarity of thought and purpose that made each day an adventure in discovery and understanding. The Zephyrian refugees who had broken away from the Dominion fleet became some of Harmony's closest companions, learning to use their own harmonic abilities for creation rather than destruction. Under Harmony's gentle guidance, they began to heal from the trauma of the war and to rediscover the peaceful culture their people had lost. Chief Yates found that his security duties had fundamentally changed. Instead of breaking up fights and mediating disputes, he now spent his time coordinating cultural exchange events and helping visiting diplomats understand how the station maintained its remarkable atmosphere of cooperation. Dr. Patel published papers on what he termed beneficial harmonic resonance that revolutionized xenobiological research. His findings led to new techniques for helping traumatized refugees from war zones and for creating peaceful environments in mixed-species communities. Captain Rodriguez received commendations from multiple colonial governments for operating the most efficient and harmonious station in the Outer Rim. When asked about his methods, he would simply smile and say that the secret was treating every being with dignity and respect, though those who visited Kepler 442 suspected there was more to it than that. And harmony? The creature that had once been hunted across the galaxy as a dangerous fugitive found what it had been searching for all along, a home where its gift was appreciated, where its power was used to create rather than destroy, and where it could exist in the peace it had always longed for. In the observation dome of Section C, now expanded into a full cultural center, Harmony would sit each day watching the stars and the constant flow of ships bringing new refugees to their sanctuary. Its silver veins pulsed with contentment as it maintained the harmonic field that made their impossible community possible. Sometimes, on quiet shifts when the station's routine business was running smoothly, Sarah would join Harmony in the dome. They would sit together in comfortable silence, two beings from completely different worlds who had found understanding and friendship in the most unlikely place. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Sarah asked during one such moment. "Before the war, when your people lived in harmony?" Harmony's response came not in words or images, but in pure emotion, a sense of completion, of having found something better than what was lost. The past was gone, and it could never be reclaimed, but the future held infinite possibilities for peace. Through the dome, they could see a new ship approaching, another group of refugees seeking sanctuary. Sarah smiled, knowing that Harmony's harmonic field would welcome them as it had welcomed so many others. The monster that had longed for quiet had found its refuge in human hands, and, in return, it had given them something beyond price, proof that peace was possible, even in a galaxy torn by conflict. That true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to create harmony from chaos. In the end, that was the most human thing of all, the ability to look at something strange and frightening and see not a threat, but a friend in need of help. And, sometimes, when beings choose compassion over fear, they discover that the monsters they're afraid of are just lost souls looking for a place to call home.